Hey everyone, this is a response video to a comment I got on an earlier deal or steal. I couldn't do this as a short simply because the things I need to address take longer than 60 seconds to do so, so I'm doing this as a regular, again, a long form video. But this is in response to a comment I got on one of my shorts in the Deal or Steal series, which was on this 1968 Ford F100 project truck for sale for $2,500, currently in the Phoenix area. And there was a rather lengthy comment left on this video. I had labeled this project truck a deal at $2,500, and this particular YouTuber did not agree and left a rather lengthy comment going into all the reasons in detail why this truck is not a deal at $2,500, and ultimately came, to the conclusion in the comment that at best this truck is worth $1,250 and prices need to be negotiated, and you shouldn't just pay this person $2,500. Well, the first thing I wanted to address is that yes, all prices are negotiable. That is true not just of project cars like this one, project trucks, but also in any vehicle deal. You should always try to negotiate price. Listed price is typically for private party sales a starting point. And usually most sellers are open to at least reasonable offers. Now, this YouTuber's comment, however, about this truck only being worth $1,250, that strikes me as an unreasonable offer for a project truck like this. As I mentioned, it is non-running. You would have to tow it home, but it is straight. It is free of collision damage. It is free of rust and corrosion. All the parts are there for the most part. You've got some engine work to do, clearly. It doesn't look like all the front accessories and things are there, but there is an engine and a transmission present. And it's sitting on four wheels that all have air in them. So it's a good, starting point for a restoration of some type, a hot rod of some type. So, saying that this thing is worth, sort of half what they're asking for here, I don't know that you would get this person down to, half their asking price. It's definitely does need to be towed, and you do need to take in the costs of sort of getting it back to your home in order to be able to start the restoration. But that is true of a lot of project cars. Likewise, the fact that the engine is incomplete, which was another point that this particular YouTuber brought up in terms of there being a lot of work necessitated here. A project truck like this, I would just make the assumption, if it were me doing this, I would just make the assumption that that engine needs to be rebuilt. You don't know what you're getting into here with a non-running vehicle. You have an engine that's present, but you don't know what its condition is. Even if you were able to sort of get this engine running without rebuilding it, I think you would be at risk of getting stranded somewhere. I think if you go into a project at this price point, you need to assume that you're likely, rebuilding the engine, and I would actually recommend rebuilding the engine just from a reliability standpoint. But certainly, if you were looking to build, kind of a muscle truck, hot rod truck, you could, rebuild that engine. Likely, address the differential in the back, maybe put in a set of gears, and have a pretty nice, hot rod truck here without really having to do body work. I mean, if you're really into having, pristine body work, certainly it needs paint and all that. But if you kind of want a muscle truck and kind of like that sort of ruffled truck look, you really wouldn't have to address the body work here, which is what makes this project truck a deal, in my opinion, is that you can sort of take it to whatever level you want to. Yes, you are going to be rebuilding that engine. Clearly you are addressing the interior in some way, but it is a project truck. So certainly hopefully you want to be doing those things. And certainly if this were my truck, I would want to be rebuilding that engine, not just from a reliability standpoint, but also from a horsepower standpoint. to be able to, get sort of maximum performance out of it. The other reason why I think that, the comment that this truck's only worth $1,250, that it's not a deal at $2,500, is a little off base, is because when you go and look at where F100s are at, you begin to see that 2,500 is a pretty good deal for an F100. This is every F100 available on Craigslist in 500 miles from Phoenix. And you can see we've got another sort of project truck level F100 here, 72, double that 2,500. This one here is 65, a few years older, different body style. Certainly looks to be running and driving. 12,000. We've got another one over here, 63, so even a little older. Clearly disassembled. Doesn't look like there's an engine in the bay. That's around the same price. So again, you're buying a non-running, non-driving truck. The person's asking, basically the same 2,250 for a non-running F100. But here we've got, another one that looks like it might be in more sort of running condition, a 62, and it's $11,000. We've got one here, 57. Again, we're getting older here, but we're also looking at a restored truck here, and that's 20,000. Here's our 68 that we were talking about at 2,500. But as we're going to go down the list here, we've got another non-running, partially disassembled truck here, 73. 3,500. We've got what looks like a, potentially a running driving truck here, a 69, so pretty close in terms of year. $10,000 for that one, and clearly, body work is required there. You've got here's a 68 F100 that's actually in running driving condition, and the paint looks kind of decent, and that's $10,000. And in fact, if we go kind of take a look at this one, Ocean Beach, California, we've got a restored motor, so certainly they've done work. The interior looks decent. Running, driving truck, they've put all their sort of effort into the motor itself. We don't have pristine bodywork. This is original paint. It's got dents and dings, and you can see the paint's, been uneven. It shows its wear. But with something that's running, driving, that actually has a rebuilt engine in this case, $10,000. Now, certainly, if rebuilding an engine isn't your thing, that might be worth it to you, because rebuilding an engine, particularly having somebody else do it for you, is an expensive proposition. If you're the kind of project car person who likes doing engine work and wants to tackle an engine rebuild yourself, that $2,500 truck we looked at before is a pretty good deal, because you've got a block that you can start with in terms of rebuilding that engine. So when we look at sort of what's out there in terms of project cars, you got to keep in mind at this point, a 68 is a 56-year-old vehicle. There just aren't a lot of them out there anymore. You're starting from a pretty small pool, and then the ones that are out there, a lot of people have grabbed them already, are doing restorations, or have taken the restoration to some point. So when it finally comes up for sale, it is not like this 68 over here that's just sitting in somebody's yard, sort of not being used. You've got vehicles that have been restored to some point, or are actually still running and driving examples, and just because they are still moving under their own power, they command double the price of what something like this 68 down here would say. So that's my response here in a nutshell to that comment about the 68 being not being a deal at 2,500, is simply that you're not going to find a 68 anything that is complete, that's not destroyed, that isn't full of rust, that isn't missing major components for $1,000 anymore. Those days are gone. These vehicles are disappearing. You can't go to most junkyards and find a 1960s or even 1970s anything in the junkyard anymore. They're just gone. The the vehicles available that you can sort of pluck out of somebody's barn, somebody's yard, are few and far between. I mean, if you think about the fact that a just run-of-the-mill 1994, Dodge Ram F-150 is 30 years old at this point. The number of 68, 65, 69 pickup trucks out there is a pretty small pool to begin with. And the ones that someone is able to part with, or willing to part with for, less than $5,000-$6,000 are even smaller and fewer and far between. So I'm going to stick with my take on this 68. I think it's a bargain at $2,500. I think you probably could get them down. I think if you showed up with cash, you could probably pick up that truck for about $2,000. You're not getting it for $1,250 or $1,000. It's just that doesn't happen anymore with cars from the 1960s in particular. So that's my take, my response on that. I stick with the fact that, $2,500 for a 1968, anything, particularly one that is straight and complete for the most part, is a deal.